On the immigration side of things, the most important document is obviously your passport. A lot of countries, when you are applying for visas or if you want to enter certain countries, they will require at least 6 months of validity on your passport from the date of entry to a country. So just check that your passport is not only valid, but it's valid for a considerable period of time. And some will require a certain number of blank pages to be available in order for the entry and exit stamps, or even for the visas themselves to be placed in. So just make sure that your passport isn't kind of absolutely rammed and it's only got a week left, because that probably won't be acceptable. Now, I tend to, when I'm in the vehicle, I keep it in this blue case. Obviously, one, because I'm patriotically British and I don't like the EU colours, but also it just protects the passport and keeps sort of the weather and the dust and the rest of the world away from it. And I keep it in a case, and that goes into my documents case here. However, when I'm out and about and I leave the vehicle, you have to carry it with you at all times. So this is your main proof of identification. It must be with you at all times. And what I tend to do is I tend to take it out the case, purely because it won't fit, and I put it in my top pocket, which is buttoned. What I do not do is keep it in a back pocket, because that could be, pickpocketers could grab that and take it away. And I don't keep it in a front pocket, because if there's things in your front pockets like money, wallet, keys, handkerchief, whatever it is that you're constantly taking in and out your pockets, there's every chance that this might fall out. So keep it on your person and keep it in its own separate pocket, where there's no risk of it ever falling out or dropping out. Okay. Now, on the subject of not losing things, with your vehicle keys, we tend to tie a bit of paracord or string paracord around them, and we physically attach them, not to our belts, because same again, if you undo the belt to go to the loo or whatever, it could slide off and fall out, but we physically attach them to our trousers like that. And now they go in our pocket. Same again, if you were to take something out, you don't want to drop your keys. But also have a spare key or a couple of spare keys, certainly with other people, and also actually hidden on the vehicle itself. So that's one that we always do with keys. Same again as with all your other documents, you should be carrying lots of copies. So this is a copy of my passport that I would carry with me, and then if there were other vehicles in the convoy, they would have other copies of primarily vehicle registration documents and passports. They're the two main ones you want other people to carry in case for any reason you were to lose yours. But also email yourself a scanned copy, a digital copy of your passport, should you need to go to a British embassy or consulate and get a new one issued. And if you have an operations base, and we would always call it like UK Ops, somebody back in your home country who you can call on to help you, be that watchful eye as you make your journey, to be there to help with any problems. Make sure they have a digital copy as well, should you need to get in touch with them. So they would hold a copy of everybody's passports, all vehicle registration documents, absolutely everything. Scanned copy of the lot. They've got it, you've got it, and you carry paper copies as well. Take a good handful of passport photos, and I'd probably say for us in the UK, once you've left the EU, I would probably have 2 per country, and make sure they're up to date. Don't get really old ones where you just clearly don't look like your passport photo. So make sure they're up to date. Some countries like India require the big passport photos. So have a good handful of those in one of these plastic wallets as well, because you may, on entry and exit, even though you have a visa, there may be certain documents that you've got to fill in on the immigration side of things where they're going to want a passport photo attached to that document. So always carry a lot of passport photos. If it's a relatively short trip that you're doing and you're going through multiple countries and you don't want to waste time being stuck having to apply for visas in preceding countries, use a visa agency. Now, I live down in the southwest of England. To get into central London, it's probably at least 4 hours from where I am, maybe a bit more, depending on the traffic. So for me to say do the London to Cape Town trip, and we needed, what do we need, 13, 14 visas. For me to keep going in and out of London to apply for a visa, hand my passport in, complete all the paperwork, come home, wait a few days, go back again, visa's been issued, go to the next one, come home. I'd be back and forth. It would cost me an absolute fortune and waste an awful lot of my time, better spent with other expedition preparation than going back and forth. The other advantage of using a visa agency is visas have a certain validity and they also have a certain amount of time to be issued. And so they will know which one to do in which order. Certain visas take longer, get them done first. Others you leave to the last minute because they're only valid for a month or so, and if you applied for them first, they'll have expired before you even set off. So we use 3 main companies. We use the Visa Machine, we use Travcour, and for the Middle Eastern and North African countries we use Gulf Visa, which have proved very useful. But when we had to get our Saudi Arabian visa, it was incredibly difficult. So you may find that you are getting e-visas now. So this one was for Azerbaijan, and I think we have one now for Turkey. Same again, the visa agency will be able to help you in making sure you're applying for the right visa. Once you've got it, particularly if it's an e-visa, lots of copies, and you carry copies of other people's e-visas if they lose them as well. Certain countries require you to basically be invited by a business, a tour company, a hotel to go and stay there. And so, for example, this is a Chinese letter of invitation. Same again, once it's all done, I will carry that. Now, it could be that you're going through a country, you have no intention of staying in a hotel, you have no intention of hiring a tour company to guide you or to join a normal tour holiday through their particular country. You're overlanding, you're independent, you're a free spirit, you've got your roof tent, you've got your kitchen, you've got everything, you don't need it. However, you still need a letter of invitation in order to get certain visas. And this is where the visa agency can be very useful in helping you get hold of the letter of invitation, because they know you're not going to stay in the hotel, you're not going to use a certain tour company, but they've got agreements with certain companies, certain hotels, that's what's going to be on there. The other reason for keeping copies of all this, and also keeping copies of your visa application forms, is if you're traveling through many countries, you know, Syria, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Kenya, you know, the list goes on and on and on for our Cape Town run, you're going to forget which countries which agencies you were using for your letters of invitation. And so by having original copies of all the applications, if you're asked at the border or if you have to complete further immigration documents on arrival, they're going to say, so where are you staying while you're in Kenya, Mongolia? You can have a quick look. Oh yes, I'm staying at hotel such and such. Here's the address of it. So that's another useful good reason for carrying copies of absolutely everything associated with your trip. Again, you scan it, you email it, you have it in a digital form, you put it on your laptop, whatever you want. But always have copies of everything. Other countries don't like certain occupations, and so you might be kind of fudging a bit if you're, say, in the media. It's all right for certain countries. Other countries, they don't want the media going in there. They don't want the military going in there. They don't want certain trades going in there. The visa agency can help you. And so you could call yourself a project manager in one country, or a builder in another country, or a mechanic in a third country. You don't want to get it all confused. Make sure you've got copies of it all. Make sure you've written it down. You remembered who you are for certain countries. It doesn't really matter, but for them it means a lot in terms of allowing you and just smooth passage to get through and enter and on your way. Now, if there's many of you and you're not a solo traveller, it's very useful when you get to borders that at least one person remains with the vehicles. Borders can be very chaotic. There'll be a lot of hustle and bustle. It won't be simply driving through. There'll be a immigration booth here, drive another 50 metres and there'll be a customs booth, and then on you go. It could be that you just park in a big open car park and there's just a random number of huts all over the place, and you've got to try and figure out which one you go to. And you could be going to one and they say, yes, we'll stamp it, but first of all you've got to change $50 into our local currency. So you have to go somewhere else, and they say, okay, well, we'll do that as long as you've got some insurance. You could spend many hours trying to sort of negotiate your way around. And all this time, there's a lot of people sort of, you know, offering their services to help you, guide you, carry stuff, sell stuff, plus just general unscrupulous types nosing around nice, swanky Western vehicles with lots of high-tech kit, particularly phones, cameras, maybe satellite navigation systems, tents, cooking kit. So you really need somebody to stay with the vehicle, ideally. And if there's a convoy of vehicles, you don't really want all 10, 20, whatever of you all traipsing into a certain building. One person can normally clear immigration and do a lot of the customs work with just one or two of you. A useful thing then is a team manifest. This is also very useful for police checkpoints. When you arrive at a police checkpoint, they're going to want to know who you are, and as well as, you know, where you're travelling or where you've come from. So rather than having to explain it and write it out every single time, by having 10, 20, 30 of copies of these, you can leave them with immigration, you can leave them with customs, you can leave them with the police. And it simply has our company logo, describes the name of the trip. This was called the Vauxhall Siberia Challenge. We have our 3 vehicles, the make and model, their colour and registration, and then it's got a list of the names of the team, and there were 9 of us in that project. So our name as per our passport, nationality, passport number, place of issue, date of expiry, place of birth, date of birth, and occupation. So I'll leave copies of all of these in the description box below, or if I can't do that, contact me and I'll be able to provide you with details of all of this so you can make up your own. But it's very useful to have a team manifest. So the final thing that's likely to be checked at the border with immigration is your legal entitlement to actually drive the vehicle. And so what you're going to need to obviously do is carry your driving license. Now, if you've got one of the old paper ones, I do suggest that you get that changed to one of the new card type, because it will have your photograph on it and therefore acts as another form of identification. And you've also got to make sure it's in date, which I was actually caught short with not so long ago, before I was heading off to Tibet. Now, because I have an HGV1 license, so heavy goods vehicle, that's the big trucks, big articulated trucks, my license is only valid for 5 years at a time before I have to get a new medical. And so you'll find on the back here the date of expiry of the license. And I think it's actually also written on the front. Yeah, so mine is valid now until the 22nd of January 2024. Again, police will pick up on that. They're very, very hot on knowing what driving licenses are and the information on them. So make sure it's valid before you head off. And also, if you do have any other motoring qualifications, particularly if you have a passenger carrying vehicle, bus or coach license, or a truck license, heavy goods, the authorities, the police, will actually recognise you as a professional driver. Now, I used to drive a truck in Africa when I left the military some 20 plus whatever years ago. I'm not a professional truck driver, but I've still got the licence. So when I got caught for speeding once in Bulgaria, I got hit doubly hard because as a professional driver, I should have known better to not be speeding. I shouldn't have been doing 80 and a 50 or whatever it was. So yeah, make sure it's valid and keep your nose clean if you've got any professional qualifications on your driving licence. An IDP, International Driving Permit, is again an international translation of your driving licence. It does not replace your driving licence. It is not a driving licence in its own right. So don't think you can head off overseas just with this, because you can't. It's just a translation booklet. That's what the police are going to want to see to make sure that you can legally drive your vehicle. So same again with the ICMV. It's simply allowing the authorities to understand what certain parts of your driving license are, what your name is, the validity of your license, what you're licensed to drive, when it expires, etc., etc. So what have we got it in here? We've got it in English. I think we've got it in French. There's Russian. There's Arabic. There's Chinese. Quite a few languages that just help the police identify who you are and to make sense of this document. So now we always carry two. Same again, unscrupulous police officers want to hold you to a bit of ransom, a bit of a backhanded cash for them. If they take one off you, you still need another one. It's a legal document. You do require it in most countries, certainly for us outside of the EU. You do not want to lose it, therefore always have a spare if you have to hand it over. Now, different countries have signed up to different conventions of the IDP. There is not a one size fits all. There are actually three different versions of the IDP. There's the 1926, the 1949, and more recently the 1968 conventions. So the 1926 and the 1949, they are valid for 1 year. The 1968 version is valid for 3 years, or up until your driving license expires, whichever comes first. But same again, I will leave details in the description box below of where you can get these. Now, unlike the ICMV that is now only issued by DVLA, and I think it's an online form, it's free. These, here in the UK, we would get them from major post offices. But again, I'll send the link to the post office website and it tells you where you can get your IDP. And they are, for us, £5.50 each. But as you can see, you do need to have a passport photo, and you do need to go in person to the post office in order to get them. But you can get two while you're there. And I always would try and get more.